Hello friends, how you doing? Day 1568. Hope you're doing amazing. So I'm coming in and just chat with you about tools, specifically emotional tools. And so for each of us, we have, I will call an emotional toolbox. And that is to help us navigate relationships or different circumstances and situations that pop up and arise in our lives. And the more tools you have, the better you will be at handling situations, especially new ones and uncertain ones. But how do you gain them? You have to develop them. Okay, you can't just pick them off the ground because someone lost it. You have to earn and develop each tool. It could be integrity, honesty, communication. But I just want to come in today and just talk about what I think is probably the most important tool. Of course, all of them are important. All of them can be very powerful. It depends on the situation that you find yourself in. But I think the most important tool is perspective. And what is perspective? Perspective is just being able to see a situation in a certain manner or from different viewpoints and angles. Because typically, when we see life, we see it from one angle. It's like we have blinders on, our own angle, our own perspective. And we all have filters in how we actually see life and situations. And so if you are only looking at each situation, each situation from one angle, then it limits you on how to actually navigate through it effectively. But it also can prevent you from growing and learning from it as well. And so I know for myself, there's been a number of situations in my life where I'm like, oh my gosh, that perspective is just mind-blowing. One simple one is, if you're familiar with the 5 love languages, words of affirmation was never really a strong one for me. It's like maybe third. It's probably third-ish, right? But not a very strong third. I do appreciate compliments and words of affirmation. I do appreciate for sure, but it's not something that made me feel very loved, if you will. And but then, when I was about 30, I was dating this one girl. She was actually older than me, but she just gave me lots of words of affirmation, and she laid it on thick. And I was like, wow, but you don't even know me yet, truly, right? It was a long distance thing, and so, but yeah, she just laid it on really, really thick, and I was just like, I'm not a words of affirmation guy, but like, damn, I feel good. I feel so good about myself, and I was like, why? Like, am I a words of affirmation guy? If it's from, the right woman or a certain woman, but then what changed my perspective was reading another book called Love and Respect. And from that book, I learned that love is very important to women, and just as much as respect is to men. And so what she was doing was actually, yes, she was giving words of affirmation, but it made me feel respected. It made me feel admired. And I was just like, oh, that's why I felt that way. Because I was like, I'm not a words of affirmation guy. I appreciate it, but it doesn't do much for me. When she laid it on thick for me, it was because she made me feel respected. And it was the words that she used, and it just made me feel like 10 feet tall and bulletproof and a man. Sorry. And so, perspective, right? Many times we assume things, not just about situations and other people, but about ourselves. But it may not actually even be true. Or maybe not the full picture, let's just say that. And so perspective can be so powerful. And, you know what? There's another mind-blowing one that I just realized recently, but I'll just share that with another live sometime. But yeah, the power of perspective can change everything. And so, what does that require? That requires you to be curious and not defensive. If you're defensive about everything and you get triggered about everything very easily, it's going to be hard to have a healthy perspective. or a willingness to actually see more than just your own perspective. However, if you, instead of being defensive, if you can be curious, then it allows you to develop that emotional tool. It allows you to actually be able to ask good questions to see it from a different point of view. So let's say someone gets triggered and they get really mad at you. Instead of being defensive, well, it's not my fault, or, it was traffic or whatever, right? Instead, you be like, oh, it seems like this is very important to you. Can you explain why? And this is assuming it's not something obvious. But yeah, if you're curious, you can actually start to develop that emotional tool of gaining perspective. But that's kind of all I want to share tonight, my friends. Yeah, if you ever thought about it, if you're able to see things from a different point of view, literally, your whole life will change. Because, how you see the world will change. Hopefully that helps you. I love you all. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay, bye.